Of all the fights that Ichigo has fought in Bleach, Ichigo vs Ulquiorra is almost the most important fight from a thematic standpoint in my opinion. And what makes this fight so special and deserves its dedicated analysis video is that it explores some of the most important themes in the series, in addition to exploring and developing multiple important characters. So let's today break down every aspect of this fight in order to understand what significance does it hold in regards to the Bleach narrative. The setup to this clash begins as early as the introduction of the concept of holos. Holos are born from deceased humans who couldn't pass to the Soul Society because they were consumed by their negative emotions. Holos are visually depicted by a dark spirit that has a face mask to indicate the loss of their original human identity, and a hole in the middle of their chest to signify the loss of their heart. If a holo devours enough holos, this results in the creation of a stronger holo entity, which is called the Manus Grande. The stronger the Manus Grande, the more it resembles a human, and the more it embodies the negative emotion and suffering that forms the very essence of its existence. In Bleach, holos are typically considered to be mindless evil creatures, which for the most part of the series is not entirely wrong. However, the more we progress into the story, the easier it was to notice their suffering, especially for the sentient ones. Holos only devour other spirits to fill the void in their heart. The idea of emptiness and suffering being the driving force behind Holos' actions is further enforced by their naming, Holo, and the world they reside in, Hueco Mundo. Hueco Mundo is a gloomy, vast, empty realm, a place where it is almost impossible between Holos to establish a genuine connection, because they have to kill or be killed. The design of Hueco Mundo was made to be a reflection of the very essence of its residents. The harsh reality of Hueco Mundo was shown in much more detail in the Arrancar's backstories, especially in Ulquiorra's backstory that was included in a special chapter in the Bleach databook, Unmasked, which shows why Ulquiorra adopted a nihilistic stance on the world. Ulquiorra was born in a dark pit where no light can reach. He was completely different from other Holos born at the same time as him. They could hear, eat, make sounds, but he couldn't. They were black, he was white. The only thing Ulquiorra had functioning were his eyes. The only thing he could do was just to observe without being able to get the connection he desired. You can say that Ulquiorra was detached both physically and mentally from the environment he was born in, which led Ulquiorra to become dead inside, where he feels nothing from what he observes, hence it has no meaning, and consequently anything that he cannot see does not exist. The only time Ulquiorra felt internal peace is when he merged with the white tree he stumbled across, which was the first time Ulquiorra got a connection from something he felt similar to himself. Ulquiorra then started losing his vision, dissolving in what he called the void, where everything disappeared, gradually becoming even more detached from his environment, forgetting what it meant to feel emotions and desire connection. Ulquiorra didn't reject emotions, bonds, and connections out of edgy apathy, but because he didn't know any better, and even if he did, he couldn't have gotten any considering the circumstances he was born in, which is kinda sad, not gonna lie. Ulquiorra found no purpose in living. He was like a robot compared to the rest of the Espada, who were showing all sorts of different emotions, and you can say this was the reason why Aizen trusted him so much, as he will carry out orders without letting his emotions get in the way. Obeying Aizen's orders gave Ulquiorra a purpose, not only because he stopped wandering around and living aimlessly, but also because during his mission, when he faced Ichigo and Orihime, he got reminded of something he never understood and forgot about a long time ago. Something that defied his logic and slowly humanized him, making him less detached from reality. Something he kept questioning them about, not as part of his mission, but because he was genuinely curious. And the thing that I'm referring to here is the heart. The idea of the heart is one of Bleach's main story themes. Bleach is a story that emphasizes things that are intangible, and you will find this theme recurring among most characters, but especially Ichigo, Orihime, and Rukia. And Ulquiorra as an antagonist is the embodiment of the complete opposite of this ideology, while Ichigo and Orihime are the perfect cure to his misery. The clash between Ichigo and his friends against Ulquiorra encapsulates the essence of this idea. From the moment Ulquiorra makes his first appearance, and the level of threat and difference in power levels between Ulquiorra and Ichigo alongside his friends are established. Ulquiorra's first mission was to assess Ichigo's current strength, but he ends up giving Ichigo backshots, calling him trash that is not worth killing, refuses to elaborate, and then leaves. Ulquiorra was then sent on a second mission to steal Ichigo's girl, and the only reason Orihime followed Ulquiorra's orders, risking being called a traitor, is because Ulquiorra had succeeded in spreading terror in her heart. She first saw Ichigo getting cooked by Yami, and then Ulquiorra showed her a hologram of the rest of her friends struggling against low-tier Arancars, leaving her with only one choice, which is to surrender herself to them. exploiting the fact she blames herself for always depending on everybody and causing them harm. And by following Ulquiorra's orders, this might put an end to it. However, she was completely wrong, as Ichigo and his friends, acting as one heart, stormed the dangerous, gloomy Hueco Mundo, despite knowing how strong their opponents are, refusing to fall for Ulquiorra's despair. And at this point of the story, this was the first time the concept of heart is vocalized by none other than Kain Shiba, Ichigo's cousin and Rukia's role model. In a brief flashback in chapter 268, Kain explains to Rukia what a heart is. Kain believes that the heart is a result of human interactions, not the physical heart of course, but rather the same heart that Ulquiorra struggled to understand, which is unsurprising considering Ulquiorra was surrounded by solitude. He was practically alone, and if you were the only person in this world, there wouldn't be a heart anywhere. You can say this was also the reason why Stark split himself into two souls, to have a heart to share with somebody, to at least not die alone. Therefore, Kain also believes that one mustn't die alone because after a soul dies, it is reduced to dust, the dust that forms the very world they reside in. But as for their hearts, as in the bonds they formed and the memories they share together, the will must be left to their companions in order to continue and live inside them. Kain, Ichigo, and his friends viewed the heart as the reason they are fighting in the first place, because even though it is something that cannot be explained or seen by one's eyes, it is what empowers them in the hopeless situations to persevere through their fears and even overcome death itself. So, no matter the amount of despair Ulquiorra tried to instill in Ichigo and Orihime's hearts, they will persist and come back stronger. And as for Ulquiorra, as much as he viewed such ideals as utter bullshit, seeing their persistence and the terms they keep tossing around made him question his ideals. This is shown in the multiple scenes where he tries to break Orihime's spirit by mocking her friends, trying to convince her that the only fate that awaits them is the inevitable death. You will also notice Ulquiorra constantly humbling Ichigo in their second fight, trying to destroy Ichigo's beliefs and spirit with what he believes are facts and logic. Ichigo wasn't there to settle with Ulquiorra, but to save Orihime. So when Ulquiorra told Ichigo who's the one behind her abduction, Ichigo went mad almost instantly, firing all sorts of attacks, but unfortunately, they were ineffective against Ulquiorra's overwhelming strength. Ulquiorra bitch slaps Ichigo across las noches and then finishes him off with his signature move, signaling that such heart they are talking about does not exist, because if it did, it would have been visible through the wound inflicted on Ichigo's chest. Ulquiorra leaves Ichigo heavily wounded alone, thinking that Ichigo will probably die from such wound, or the best case scenario for Ichigo is to miraculously survive, but then run for his life, as this fight should have proved that no matter what he believes in, it is illogical to be that weak, yet raise your sword to fight an opponent who far exceeds your strength. But Ulquiorra couldn't have been more wrong, as Orihime heals Ichigo, who gets up even stronger and goes on an ass-whooping spree, getting sucked more and more to the dark depth of Hueco Mundo, letting his hollow side take over and becoming more like an espada than a human. Aizen then carried on with his plan, leaving both Hueco Mundo and Orihime in the hands of Ulquiorra. On the other hand, Ichigo became more of a threat as opposed to what should have happened according to Ulquiorra's logic, and Ulquiorra now knew what he has to do. But for the last time before the final battle starts, he asks Orihime out of curiosity, how can she be scared when Aizen doesn't need her anymore and nothing can stop him from killing her, or the fact that a bloody battle is about to start between two espadas because of her. And Orihime answers with the same bullshit that doesn't satisfy Ulquiorra, yet deep inside of him, this made him question his ideals even more, to the point that he viewed the final battle as a matter to prove to them that their ideals are completely wrong. Ichigo in the final round has significantly grown in strength to the point he forced Ulquiorra to draw his sword and even traded blows with him. But Ulquiorra was not gonna get any of that disrespect. He flies to the top of Las Noches to finally show Ichigo the power he always concealed. And even though Ulquiorra in his first transformation was cooking Ichigo with his holified Bankai, Ichigo still believed that he won't stop fighting because the difference in power does not matter, as he will win because he needs to win. Ulquiorra calls out Ichigo for this stupidity and for one last time shows Ichigo what he calls true despair, once again piercing through his heart with his signature move, instantly killing him in front of Orihime and seemingly destroying both of their spirits. But yet again, Orihime does something that Ulquiorra least expected. Even though Ichigo was obviously dead, she still tried to save him, and when she failed, she still asked for help from his dead corpse. And eventually, and to Ulquiorra's surprise, fueled by the same bonds that empowered him all along this saga, Ichigo returns with a monstrous form, scarier than any version of Ulquiorra, returned with only one thing in mind, which is to protect Orihime. And notice the parallels in this point of the fight. Ulquiorra was the one showing all sorts of emotions, becoming more human, while Ichigo turned into a mindless monster that doesn't show mercy to his opponents, to the point that Ulquiorra was the one to save Ichigo's friends from his stray attacks. And Ulquiorra didn't do that hoping that Ichigo will spare him. He knew that he was doomed since he couldn't regenerate his internal organs, but rather he did that out of empathy. Ulquiorra started to grasp what it meant to be a human. So here he asks Orihime one last time, "Are you afraid?" And she answers, "I'm not." Orihime, out of all people, despite all the suffering, mental and physical torture she had to deal with in Hueco Mundo, not only she was not scared because everybody she shared her heart with was safe, but she didn't hold any malice towards Ulquiorra, the one who caused all the suffering, but rather she pitied him. She even tries to physically make a connection with Ulquiorra, but sadly, before they touch, he gets reduced to nothingness, to the dust that forms the environment around him. But at the very least, he died knowing he shared the heart with Orihime. At the very least, he didn't die alone, and his will forever live inside of us.